Can you demolish the house tomorrow? Of course. Everything left in the house will be disposed of, right? Yes. Sorry for the tight schedule. No problem. I'm aware of the situation. My husband, who dumped his father's care on me, went on a trip to Hawaii with his mistress. It's impossible not to be angry about this. While my husband was enjoying his time with his mistress, I demolished the house and turned it into an empty lot. Hey! Where are you right now? Huh? Did you come back? Why is the house gone? It's just an empty lot now. Yes, that's right. I had it demolished. What? Why? My husband, who returned from his trip to Hawaii, frantically called me. It's natural for him to be panicked since the house we lived in is gone. However, he's still unaware that he has already lost much more than just the house. I'm Mia. I'm a 49-year-old caregiver. My husband Oliver, a year older than me and a salesman, and I have been married for 25 years. On our 25th anniversary, we reached another major milestone. Our son Jack graduated from college and was set to move out. Don't always eat out. Make sure you wake up on time for work and double-check if the door is locked when you leave. I'll be fine. Mia, you worry too much. Jack's not a kid anymore. If he makes a mistake, he'll handle it himself. You don't need to nag so much. I know, but I can't help but worry. My husband and son laughed at me, worrying as if I was leaving a small child alone at home. Is it so strange for a mother to worry about her son moving out? I was slightly annoyed but also relieved to see their smiles, easing the odd tension that had been in our home for weeks. Well, I'm off. Good luck. I watched my son leave without looking back, appearing so grown up. When he turned the corner and was out of sight, I felt like my role as a mother was finally complete. I stretched and indulged in a sense of freedom. I was looking forward to restarting our life as a couple after over 20 years. I thought we were finally going to have our life as just the two of us, but that quickly came to an end. Got a call from the hospital. Dad apparently fell while cleaning the yard. Is he all right? He might have broken a bone. I'm going to the hospital to check on him. I'll come too. I can handle it alone. You don't need to skip work. I'll tell you all about it when I get back. I couldn't concentrate at work after hearing that my father-in-law was injured. I kept glancing at the clock, which seemed to barely move, feeling frustrated. How's your father? Welcome back. Turns out it's a fracture. I see. When I got home, I found my husband in the living room and immediately asked about his father before even greeting him. I was hoping for minor injuries, but hearing my husband's words, I couldn't help but let out a sigh. He's going to be in the hospital for a while. No way, he's not gonna be in a wheelchair after discharge, right? Nah, I don't think it'll come to that, but he'll probably need a cane. That's worrisome. I should be relieved that he won't need a wheelchair. But I can't help but worry just hearing that he'll need a cane. There's a reason for my concern. My mother-in-law, who was 2 years older than my father-in-law, passed away 3 years ago due to illness. So, now my father-in-law, who's 76, is living alone. My husband Oliver has suggested that he move in with us. I've always been grateful to my in-laws and worried about leaving my father-in-law alone, so I agreed with the idea of living together. However, not wanting to be a burden, he has always refused to move in with us, preferring to live alone while he still can. But now, it might be difficult to prioritize his wishes. After Dad gets out of the hospital. We're gonna live with your dad, right? No problem with that. I've always been in favor of living with your dad. Really? Thanks. Then, it's goodbye to this house. I looked around the living room, reminiscing about when our son Jack was little. Our house and my in-laws' house are close, so it doesn't matter whether we go to their place or they come to ours. However, our house is a condo, which would be inconvenient for my father-in-law with his bad leg. Therefore, we decided to move out of our condo and into the family house. Next weekend, we told this to my father-in-law in the hospital. Dad, you can't really say you want to live alone now, can you? After you're discharged, you're gonna live with us. Sorry to be a burden. You're not a burden at all. He accepted our offer to live together, looking a bit apologetic yet happy. Just as we felt relieved and were leaving his room, we were stopped in the hallway. Wait a minute. It was my sister-in-law Charlotte, who had come to visit our father-in-law. Charlotte lives a bit far from our in-laws' house, but often visits our father-in-law, who lives alone. Her presence was a big reason we agreed to let him live alone. She had taken the day off work to visit him in the hospital today. Charlotte then expressed her concerns about our decision to live with our father-in-law.
Oliver, Jack just moved out and now you're suddenly gonna live with Dad? Are you okay with that, Mia? I'm single and not planning to get married, so I can live with Dad if that's better.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it.
You live far away, don't you? You can't come back to the family home, right? Are you planning to take Dad to your place? If we move to the family home, Dad doesn't have to leave the house he's used to. Plus, Mia works in caregiving, so she can help with Dad.
Charlotte smiled after hearing our words.
If Mia's okay with it, then it's fine. It seems like you, Oliver, are really considering Dad's situation. I was just worried that you might be taking Dad in out of a sense of responsibility as the eldest son, and Mia might be reluctantly going along with it. No way that's the case. Come to think of it, Charlotte, you worry just like Mia used to.
Charlotte's laughter made both my husband and me smile unintentionally. Charlotte wasn't insisting on taking in our father-in-law, but was just overly worried about us and him. She wanted to let us know that her taking him in was also an option. Realizing her over-concern, her face turned a bit red.
If Dad's gonna continue living in the family home, I'll take care of making it more accessible before he's discharged. I'll put in ramps for the steps and handrails on the walls. That'd be a great help.
Charlotte, as if to hide her embarrassment, now wore an expression full of confidence. She has been a long-time employee at a home improvement store and is a pro at DIY. We decided to leave the house modifications to her and focus on our move. 2 months after my father-in-law was hospitalized, our life together began. His legs have gotten worse and he needs care, but it's not so severe that he's completely dependent. So, Oliver and I can continue working as usual. My father-in-law sometimes looks guilty, but there are no issues in our relationship. I thought we would have peaceful days for a while. But soon after we started living together, Oliver began acting suspiciously. A month into living with my father-in-law, Oliver started coming home late. It's understandable given his job. But he also began going out alone on weekends. I don't expect to spend every weekend with him after 25 years of marriage. However, my job requires me to work even on weekends, when my husband has his days off. So, when Oliver leaves on weekends, my father-in-law is left alone.
Hey, I get you have things to do on weekends, but can't you spend some time with your dad? It's lonely for him to be left alone all the time.
What? Dad's not severely demented or bedridden, is he? Why do we need to be with him?
What if he gets hurt again? Besides, it's sad for him to be alone when we're living together.
He's not a child, there's no need to worry so much. You really are a worrier. Oliver laughed off my concerns. He knows more about his father than I do. Based on Oliver's words, I figured my father-in-law doesn't mind spending time alone. But a month later, I started feeling like Oliver's words weren't entirely true.
You're getting up? Let me help you. Sorry to always bother you. Don't mention it. It's nothing. No, it's not just now. You always help me around the house, join me for walks and shopping. I really appreciate it. I've received a lot of help from you since I married into the family, so we're even. Please don't worry about it. Do you really feel that way? Oliver seems cold to me, but are you just looking after me out of obligation? Of course not. Charlotte's worrying nature must have come from you. Oliver's probably just enjoying his freedom now that Jack is out of the house. Is that so? Are you sure you're okay not having time for yourself? I'm fine. I don't have any hobbies, so I prefer being with you.
My father-in-law looked guilty again. Despite what Oliver said, it seemed my father-in-law was troubled by being left alone on weekends. However, he seems to be worried that Oliver dislikes him. That night, I decided to confront Oliver about his mistaken attitude. I also decided to express the frustrations I've felt over these 2 months. It seems Dad is really bothered by you leaving the house on your days off. He thinks you might dislike him. Really? Then just tell him that's not true.
Just tell him? So, you're planning to keep leaving him alone on weekends?
He's just misunderstanding that I dislike him.
If I tell him that's not the case, it'll be fine. That's not the point. And you're always coming home late, even on weekdays, and going out on weekends. You talked big at the hospital, but you hardly help with your dad. Can you give me a hand? I work too, you know. I think it's better if you handle it, given your caregiving experience. Dad can mostly take care of himself, right? Your help should be enough. I was so astounded by his response that I was at a loss for words. Oliver had laughed off my concerns before, but this time, he was serious. It seems this is genuinely how he thinks. All right, I'll continue to support your dad myself. Thanks, I appreciate it. Starting a fight over my father-in-law would just make him feel guilty again. So, even though I was angry at Oliver's words, I kept a straight face to hide my anger. And really, I can manage my father-in-law's care on my own. I just wanted Oliver to help out of consideration for his father. But asking a husband with such an attitude for help might just lead to more trouble. I decided to take care of my father-in-law alone. I'm off work today. How about we go for a walk together? Really? I'm sorry to trouble you. Until now, I had been stressed because Oliver hadn't helped at all. But once I accepted that I couldn't expect anything from him, that stress vanished. And I have a stronger ally than my husband could ever be. This handrail seems a bit low for you to use comfortably. Then I'll raise it a bit. I'll fill in the screw holes too. Sorry about this. I thought Oliver could handle something like this, but he never does. He's out again today, isn't he? Wonder what he's up to. Charlotte talked with me while continuing her work. Her skillful use of the impact driver was far more reliable than my husband could ever be. Even after we started living with my father-in-law, Charlotte occasionally came to check on him. Now, I look forward to having tea and chatting with Charlotte and Dad more than anything. The other day, Dad was boldly writing his end-of-life planning notebook in the living room. It surprised me. Well, I don't want to be a burden until the very end. Plus, I don't think it's something I need to hide. It's not bad to write a planning notebook, and for Dad, it might have been a positive thing. But it's understandable to be surprised if you come across someone writing that without knowing anything about it. That's true. Sorry about that. Don't worry, I'm not planning to join your mom just yet. My father-in-law seemed to brighten up as I became more lighthearted, and his guilty expressions decreased. It's a shame Oliver isn't here, but I'm satisfied thinking that I'm living the peaceful days I wanted. However, this peace was soon to end. One Friday night, Oliver came home late as usual. Perhaps because he didn't have work the next day, he seemed to have drunk quite a bit. Are you okay? You've had quite a bit to drink. Yeah, just some work stuff. I'm gonna take a bath. Maybe wait until you're a bit less drunk? I'm fine, really. You worry too much. Oliver threw his jacket and bag onto the living room sofa and staggered towards the bathroom. I was concerned, but he's not a child. If he makes a mistake, he'll have to deal with it himself. Since he said the same to our son, there's no need for me to nag. I sighed and started to pick up his jacket and bag. As I picked up his bag, a loud rattling noise startled me. Looking towards the noise, I saw Oliver's phone on the table. It seemed to have vibrated with a call. He usually takes it with him to the bathroom. Maybe he's just taking a shower this time? Oliver always puts his phone in a waterproof case and watches videos while soaking in the tub. Not just in the bath, he's practically addicted to his phone and hardly ever puts it down at home. Even though he was drunk, today was an unusual day. With that thought, I casually glanced at Oliver's phone screen and saw a message notification from a messaging app. Thanks for today. Had fun, didn't you? Displayed on Oliver's screen was an unfamiliar woman's name and a suggestive message. No way, right? Who would be interested in a 50-year-old man? I tried desperately to dismiss the idea of an affair, rationalizing with my husband's age. But I had heard that affairs are common among older couples, and Oliver was always coming home late and going out alone on weekends. I couldn't completely dismiss the idea of an affair, and my anxiety grew. Oliver's phone, oblivious to my turmoil, rattled again with another message. One after another, third and fourth messages came in, each notification making the phone rattle. The messages appearing on the screen became increasingly intimate, and the word affair in my mind became clearer. I'm better at it than her, right? Seeing the fifth message, I felt nauseous.
I quickly took a photo of the screen before the notification disappeared. The sound of the shower meant I still had time. So I decided to check Oliver's bag. As expected, it contained mostly work-related items. Nothing seemed suspicious, but my hand naturally reached for his thick schedule planner. The entries were mostly in black ink, but some were in red. The black entries were labeled as meetings and deliveries, while the red ones were cryptically labeled as meetings and handovers. Having seen the messages with his mistress, I immediately understood these red entries as camouflaged plans with her. Where was he planning to meet and what was he handing over? Looking at future plans, I saw a week-long business trip next month marked in red. Clearly, this was not a business trip but a vacation in disguise. The shower stopped, so I quickly took a photo of the planner, put it back in the bag, and tidied up his jacket and bag as if nothing happened.
Oh, you tidied up my bag?
Sorry about that. It was in the way. I didn't do it for you. I felt nauseous again as Oliver came out of the bathroom, drying his hair. Oblivious, he continued to dry his hair.
Can you not wander around the living room while drying your head?
Sorry.
But a little bit should be fine, right?
Oh, I left my phone out here. He realized he had forgotten to take his phone to the bathroom and hurried back to the living room.
Did anyone call? I don't know, I wasn't in the living room because I was putting away your stuff.
Oh, okay. He took his phone and went straight to the bedroom. Knowing about the affair, my disgust was overwhelming. Once he disappeared, the nausea I felt subsided. Alone in the living room, I sat on the sofa. The room was quiet, the ticking of the clock's second hand growing louder. With each second that the clock's hands ticked, my anger grew gradually. After a minute, with 60 ticks of the clock, my anger reached its peak. I had two strong allies on my side. Oliver wasn't going on a vacation, but to hell. The following week, when Charlotte visited, I told her and my father-in-law about Oliver's affair. When I showed them the photos of the messages and the schedule, both my father-in-law and Charlotte were furious.
I can't believe it! All this time he was wandering around alone, he was up to this.
I never imagined he would do something like this. I'm really sorry for the trouble he's caused you, Mia. I felt sorry for making my father-in-law wear such a remorseful expression. Seeing his face, I felt apologetic too. But I knew I couldn't just stand still.
I'm sorry, but I'm considering divorcing my husband.
I said it out loud, and then, too scared to see their reactions, I dropped my gaze.
That makes sense. What do you need? I'll help you. If there's anything we can do, just tell us.
I looked up at them after hearing their words. You'll help me?
Of course. You're the one who's been getting me out of bed every morning, making separate meals for me with less salt, taking care of me. It was all you, Mia. No matter who it is or the reason, the one who has an affair is always in the wrong. Did you think we wouldn't help you? You're a worrier just like us.
Charlotte was right. I had thought they would surely help, but somewhere in my heart, I was worried they might side with Oliver. But it turns out, that worry was unnecessary.
You were already planning this, weren't you, Dad?
Yes.
So, do as you please. But if you're going to do it, you need to submit the documents to the local government at least a week in advance. Can I leave that to you, Charlotte? I'll ask someone I know who helped me with selling the condo.
Our strategy meeting with my father-in-law and Charlotte went smoothly. The plan would start a week before Oliver's fake business trip, with the real action beginning right after he left for his trip. We exchanged looks and nodded silently, determined to make our plan work. That night.
Next month, I have a week-long business trip.
Oh? Yeah, that's typical of you. The day we had our strategy meeting, Oliver told me about his fake business trip. The timing was too perfect, and I panicked a bit. It seemed he hadn't noticed anything, but I knew I had to be more careful to keep our plan secret until its execution.
Well, I'm off then.
Yes, have a good trip. A month later, after seeing Oliver off on his fake business trip, I started the plan with my father-in-law in a hurry. It was a race against time. But because we had prepared well in advance, it went more smoothly and less chaotically than I had anticipated. I was looking forward to seeing the results in a week. A week after Oliver left for his fake trip. I was leisurely tidying up the house when he called.
Hey! Where are you right now?
Huh? Did you come back?
Why is the house gone? It's just an empty lot now.
Yes, that's right.
I demolished it while you were on your business trip. Your stuff is in a storage unit. I'll send you the location later. What? Why?
I couldn't help but laugh, imagining his panicked state. Just as Oliver said, the house we had been living in was already demolished. Right after he left for his fake trip, I had hurriedly prepared to move to my new solo living condo, and my father-in-law to Charlotte's house. We had prepared a list of what to take in packed boxes to make the move easy, so it only took a day. The speed of our move was comparable to professional movers. Once we were ready, I called the demolition company.
Can we proceed with the demolition of the house as planned tomorrow?
Of course. Everything left in the house will be disposed of, right?
Yes. I'm sorry for the tight schedule.
Don't worry. Charlotte has informed me of the situation. The demolition company was referred to me by Charlotte. It was a bit of a rush, but they managed to demolish the house within a week by picking up the pace. Charlotte has worked at a home improvement store for a long time and has many contacts in related fields. She's also knowledgeable about home-related procedures. So, she coordinated with the demolition company for the necessary preparations, ensuring that we could start demolishing the house as soon as Oliver left for his fake business trip.
Just because I left Dad's care to you, you did this? I was working hard on my business trip.
Sure, you were working hard, but not on your job, right? You went on an affair trip to Hawaii, didn't you?
How did you know that?
While my father-in-law and I were hastily preparing to move, Charlotte, who had hidden near our house, started tailing Oliver. Oliver took a train to the airport. And he met up with his mistress there before flying off, so Charlotte had to stop following them there. But she guessed they were probably going to Hawaii based on the boarding gate and destination board. Oliver's reaction suggested Charlotte's guess was accurate.
So Charlotte was following me.
She even took pictures of you holding hands, looking quite cozy.
But destroying our family home just because you're angry with me? Think about Dad's feelings.
What are you talking about? I couldn't have done this without your dad's consent.
So Dad agreed to demolish the house? Why go to such lengths?
Your dad was planning to demolish the house anyway. We just moved up the schedule.
What do you mean?
Dad had intended to leave the house and land to Oliver and me. However, while writing his end-of-life planning notebook, he realized that the house was old and had little value as a building, so keeping it could be a burden for us. His plan was eventually to demolish the house and leave just the land. His notebook mentioned that the land could be sold or used to build a new house. We were free to decide. I had seen this notebook and thus proposed this plan to Dad.
You might plan to leave me and be on your own, but by demolishing the house and making Charlotte and Dad live together, they would suffer. You're just like me, you find Dad bothersome.
Oliver raised his voice, thinking he had found a point of attack. But he was way off. Charlotte already said she was willing to live with your dad, didn't she?
Yeah, but living together will show her how hard it is.
You hardly helped at all, and you have the nerve to say that. But that's okay.
And doesn't demolition cost a lot of money?
Yes, about $60,000.
Dad paid that? If he spent so much, wouldn't he struggle financially?
That won't be a problem. I think Charlotte and your dad living together will go smoothly.
Eh?
Aren't you at the place where our house used to be? Isn't there a for sale sign there?
There is a for sale sign. Is this land for sale?
Yes, that's right. We decided to sell the land after demolishing the house. It belonged to Dad, so it was natural for him to pay for the demolition. Additionally, since the land belongs to my father-in-law, it's only natural that the money from its sale would be his. While Charlotte was coordinating with the demolition company for the plan's preparations, I was dealing with a real estate agent to sell the land. I had a connection with this agent from when I sold my condo. I relied on the same agent who handled my condo sale. That made the land sale process smooth. According to the real estate agent, the land would likely sell for around $120,000. When the land sells, I'm supposed to get moving expenses from that $120,000. Charlotte mentioned she's working, so she plans to use day services for your dad. He probably intends to help with her living expenses, given he has money and will use day services. Charlotte had always been willing to live with your dad. Do you see any problem with that?
So where am I supposed to go?
I don't know. Maybe to your mistress?
That's impossible. She's married, and ours was just a physical relationship. We never intended to be together. Please, just this once, forgive me. I'm begging you.
A physical relationship in a double affair? How can you expect me to forgive that? I've just got proof of your affair, so expect a divorce and alimony.
What do you mean?
I've been recording this conversation with an app. You didn't have any proof of your affair, but you just admitted to a purely physical double affair, didn't you?
What? You've been recording all this time?
Yes. About the house, your dad, the divorce, anything else you want to ask? From the other end of the phone, I heard a sound like sand being rubbed together. Oliver had probably collapsed on the ground. Hey, are you listening? There was no response from Oliver. If he's not going to talk, there's no need to keep the phone line open. I sighed and hung up. I wasn't sad about divorcing Oliver. I was just looking at the piles of boxes, thinking about how much time unpacking would take. The divorce from Oliver went as smoothly as the house demolition and land sale. My ex-husband, having lost his home, rented a cheap apartment. There was a reason he chose a cheap place. When we divorced, we split our savings. But he had to pay me alimony for the affair. Moreover, it was a double affair. When I claimed alimony from his mistress, her husband learned about her affair. So, Oliver was also claimed for alimony by her husband. Naturally, her husband filed for divorce as well. Furthermore, the mistress was a co-worker of Oliver. Such an interesting topic as a double affair naturally spreads on its own. The affair becoming known within the company led to both Oliver and his mistress resigning. Oliver was left penniless and without income after paying alimony to me and his mistress. My father-in-law has money, but he'll likely use most of it for Charlotte's sake. So, Oliver couldn't expect any inheritance. He lost money, family, and home because of the affair. The mistress, now divorced, could have ended up with Oliver. However, her life was also ruined by this incident. Being self-inflicted, she started blaming Oliver for losing her job and getting divorced. Initially just a physical connection, there was no love between them, so it was impossible for them to work out. Thus, they ended their relationship when they quit their jobs. I've also informed my son about the divorce. That's Dad's fault. My son is appalled by his father's affair and has been keeping his distance, ignoring the occasional messages he receives. Apparently, my ex-husband's reason for the affair was the sense of freedom he felt after our son became independent, leading him to overextend his newfound liberty. Knowing this would upset my son. So I've kept the reason for the affair a secret from him. I've started living on my own post-divorce. I've always managed both household and work, and my job remains the same, so not much has changed other than being alone. Thinking of my ex-husband, who lost both money and family, I realize how fortunate I am that nothing has changed. My relationship with my former sister-in-law, Charlotte, and former father-in-law continues to be good. I'm planning to visit them tomorrow since I have the day off from work.